Hi, I'm Mike Murray, guitarist from Toronto. Welcome to this interview with Mr. Jeremy Sean Hector. This is a companion piece to a series of shows that we're doing here called quote unquote Six String Summer, where the third Tuesday of every month we're going to be hosting shows at the Painted Lady, phenomenal venue here in the city, where my band's going to be performing each month. We're going to be doing more original music, new music that we're building up towards a project that we're going to record in the winter and fall, as well as featuring a special guest each month that represents the best of this city's amazing guitar lineup. Toronto is such a guitar town. The more time I spend here, the more I'm impressed with the high level of skill that there is on the instrument here. It's in every genre. It's everywhere you look. There's an incredible guitarist. So we're really lucky to be here, and I wanted to feature some of these people with these shows and with these interviews. First up is Jeremy Hector. So Jeremy is going to be playing duo with Quincy Bullen on the first of these shows, which is, as of the posting of this video, in about 2 days on June 21st, 2022. And Jeremy is from Grenada. He's an amazing guitarist that I first heard in a backyard show in, I believe, summer of 2020. And I remember thinking, who is this guy? Like, I'd never seen him around. I'd never heard him play before. And just instantly, like the first couple notes, I was just like, wow, this guy's got a great feel. And it was, blew me away. Quincy also is a phenomenal guitarist. But he also plays, many other instruments. And he plays them all really, really well. The dude is amazing. So these two guys, I'm thrilled to have them on this first show. We sat down with Jeremy ahead of it just to talk about, his history with guitar and music and what brought him to the city. It was a really enjoyable time. I certainly need to work on my interview skills a bit, and we got some other technical details to sort out. But as a first one of these, I had a great time doing it. I hope you enjoy. This is a chat with Jeremy Sean Hector.
Awesome.
Well, there we go. Not bad at all. That was roughly a Marvin Gaye tune.
Roughly,
very roughly. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it. So I guess like this is the first one of these, so we're filling this out. But you know, the whole idea with these shows is that I wanted to feature like Toronto guitarists that I think are awesome. And I think I saw you first time, I want to say summer of 2020 in Pat Bly's backyard. Probably. And I was just like, who is this guy? Like, you know, and I was like, man, I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so glad you're on the show.
Oh, man.
So I figure we can start if you want to talk about like, I can ask you what brought you to Toronto, because I feel like almost everybody here is not from here, right? And it's a huge guitar town. So yeah, like what brought you here? Was it music or?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. Good friend and mentor and producer, Eddie Bullen, piano player. He's well known around these parts.
Yeah.
He's the reason why I'm here to begin with. I first came in 2018, I believe it was, and he produced my first album then.
Oh, okay.
So that was quite the experience. So that was the first time I was here, 2018. I went back to Grenada, which is where I'm from. And came back again in 2019, and then went back, and then COVID happened.
right.
And then this is my third time here. I got here last year sometime, June.
Right. Okay.
It's almost a year. It'll be a year this month.
Oh, cool.
I've been here. Yeah.
Awesome, man. So, like, when COVID happened, were you here or were you there?
I was actually in Barbados. I was in Barbados for some months, and I started hearing news of this pandemic. Well, I didn't think it wasn't a pandemic at the time.
Right.
And I didn't think it would become one.
Right.
But when it started getting serious, I went back home to Grenada, and I was there until I came here.
Right. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And I'm just curious, like, what was it like there during those early months when did everything shut down like it did here? Or?
Well, I had a show in Antigua which I was supposed to do, and then it got cancelled.
Right.
And then I realized, maybe this.
Right. Maybe this is for real.
Yeah. And yeah, we had lockdowns. We, like everywhere else, just indoors, going out to buy food, and it was, especially for a musician, it was
not great.
It's not great. Some people have the option to work from home. Well, not many of us can.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
So yeah, it was challenging, I would say.
Right. I mean, we're here,
We're
so we got there. We got through it. Okay, well that's awesome, man. So how do you know Eddie then?
Eddie's Grenadian.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's Grenadian, and he would come down ever so often to do events and things, and we connected on one of those trips.
Right.
And so that's where I know him from.
Okay,
yeah.
So that makes sense. Yeah. Awesome. No, that's great, man. So the other thing I wanted to ask you, because like you have, I was listening to your album, and you have this. Well, I know this just from seeing you too, but you have like a really cool like feel just when you're playing melodies and stuff like that.
Thanks, man.
And I wanted to ask like where that comes from. Like, what's your inspiration for that?
So, unlike many other players, I did not grow up listening to much guitar.
Okay.
And that wasn't like deliberate. It was just I didn't really gravitate to. I didn't have a teacher one.
Right.
So I was like teaching myself. My dad, who plays, he showed me a couple of chords here and there, but it was like I was off into the wind just exploring.
Right.
And I happened to fall in love with some singers, I liked the way they sang, and so I ended up trying to emulate singing.
Right, okay.
And not so much riffs and copying licks, which I'm getting into now.
Right.
But for a good while, it was just purely melody, man. Like I would learn the melodies, the songs, and try to play it exactly as the way the singers sang it.
Right. Okay.
So that's where I feel like that comes from.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that you say that. Because I was, like I said, listening to that stuff. You got a very melodic phrasing thing, And like when I first heard you playing with the Bullens in that backyard, that was the thing. I was like, man, I don't know anyone here who plays like that. That's really cool. It sounds really good. So yeah, and then I guess so you started playing young then?
Sorry?
You started playing young?
I was like 14 when I started.
Right.
Playing.
Okay.
I'm there about 14. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So what? So I think earlier we were chatting and you mentioned that you did a year at Humber College here.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Right. So what was the goal there? Like what brought you there?
Well, I think I was looking for a program that wasn't too long.
Right.
Meaning it was affordable.
Right.
And I have all these ideas and things that are, I feel like, a bit fragmented. And I was looking for a program that is kind of to the point, especially with regards to things like improv, to just connect some of those dots. And yeah, Humber was the only way I could find a music program that was just a year long.
Right.
And some of the courses were geared towards the things I wanted to focus on. So that's how I ended up there.
Right. Okay. And how did you find it?
It was overall a great experience, man. Like
right.
I learned, because it was actually my first, my first formal musical education.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, obviously, there were things I struggled with at first, like notation. And,
right.
But eventually, it started making sense, and it helped me to, I guess, look at music in a slightly different way. Especially, with improv, some things you can wing, and some things you kind of have to know what's happening
right.
from a harmony standpoint.
Right.
So I feel like a year is not a long time, and I couldn't cover everything in a year, but it pointed me in a direction.
Oh, right. Yeah. See, so I'm going to be honest, that actually kind of surprises me a bit, because listening to your album, a lot of it's like pretty sophisticated. Like it sounds to me like it is anyway. There was it's Finally Home or something like that.
Right.
That was my favorite one. But
Wow.
I think it was probably the most guitar-y one. Maybe that's probably why I like it. But there was some like odd time stuff in there, and there was like all sorts of stuff going on in that.
It's funny because when I would send Eddie the demo tracks, I would record just melody and some chords in the back, and I'd send it to him, and he listened to it, and he was like, "Do you realize the B section of this song is in 2 different time signatures?"
Oh.
And I said, "What?" I was like, "What?" And then he said, "Yeah, listen, it's in different time. It's actually in like 3 time signatures."
Yeah, it changes a lot.
And I did that kind of just intuitively without even thinking about it, which
right.
I think is really cool. So for me, like I would like to, which I have been doing, like just conceptualizing some of the stuff I already do,
right,
in a way that, okay, this is what I did and this is the theory behind it, so I could be deliberate,
right, right.
Yeah.
No, okay, that's interesting. That's really interesting to me. I'm the exact opposite. Well, like when I was a student, I went to Humber as well, and in theory class they did a thing where they had us. He drew like a spectrum on the board. Like, do you play by feel or do you play by theory? And I was the only one that put myself way on the theory side. Like everybody else was on the other side.
Wow.
So I always find it so interesting, like when people come up with these really complex ideas just from like, oh, I just think it's cool. And I'm like, man, I wish I could do that. Like I had to know what it was before I could do that, So no, but yeah, I really love that track. Like I thought it was awesome.
Thanks, man.
Like really nice guitar tone and playing and everything. Like it was super cool, man. Like really, really good.
Appreciate it, bro.
So like how have you found Toronto since you've been here?
Well, it's been good, man. I mean, it wasn't like it was the last time I was here because last summer most of those festivals and things were closed.
Yeah.
Shut down due to the pandemic, but it's good. I feel like I'm getting to play with people who could really stretch me.
Right.
Because I'm from a really small island.
Right.
Population of 100,000 people.
Oh, that's it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so And I did some playing there, but it's not a very big jazz environment.
Right.
I mean, it's Caribbean music, so
Right.
soca, reggae,
Right.
mainly. And there are bands that play other things, but not at the same level.
Right.
So being here is great to actually stretch myself in that way, and play with people who do things that I don't know what was that.
Right. Right. Yeah. Right.
And I have these moments where it's cool because I'm the kind of person that I leave my ego out of it.
Right.
And I'm just trying to learn as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think I saw you were playing with Larnell sometimes.
I did. Yeah, I did. It was scary.
That was probably insane.
Yeah, but you know what? He's a very cool individual.
Right.
He just embraced me, man, and made me
great.
feel like I should be there.
Right. Right. Oh, that's so great.
Which is great. Yeah.
I know,
appreciate that about him.
Well, I know. This is just a random story. I actually don't really have any connection to him other than I went to this Humber, obviously, where he taught, but we never really interacted. But my wife is from Brampton, and she took the bus in Brampton one day, and she kind of messaged me, and she was like, "Do you know this guy Larnell Lewis?" And I was like, "Yes, obviously I know who Larnell Lewis is." And she's like, "His dad was my bus driver." And I was like, "What?" And apparently, like, she got on the bus with a guitar. He was like, "Oh, you're a musician? My son's a musician," and like all that thing.
And I thought a musician.
Yeah, but it turns out his son is Larnell Lewis,
Whoa.
right? So I thought that was awesome. I thought that was really, really cool. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously like a pretty great band to be playing with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you probably learn a lot just from hanging around those guys.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's amazing. And you also, obviously you played with Eddie a lot, and Quincy and those guys. And is there anything else you're doing around here these days?
I play at church occasionally.
Right.
But not really. I spent the last few months really working on my second album.
Okay, that's exciting.
So I'm eager to now start playing a bit more.
Right.
And just getting out there, man.
Right. Yeah.
Because I was in the studio a lot these past months, so.
Right. Oh, that's cool. So that reminds me of something I wanted to ask you then, because so if back home's not a big jazz environment, but you made this like jazz album, right? So how did that come about then? Obviously, I know you went through Eddie, but like, where did the jazz come for you then? If that's not a jazz place.
Well, I think the influence of like my dad would play all these. It was mainly like contemporary jazz stuff, smooth jazz, easy listening. Guys like Chuck Loeb and Foreplay and Norman Brown,
right?
A little George Benson, but my main influence, I would say, is Chuck Loeb.
Okay.
I remember when I heard that album, In a Heartbeat.
Yeah.
And I never so before then, the smooth jazz stuff that I heard was kind of like elevator music,
right?
But Chuck had this way of he would make a song. He would have chorus, verses, bridge, and it's instrumental music, but you could follow it in the same way you would if there were lyrics.
Right.
So I that really struck me as something I wanted to do. It's instrumental, but it's still very lyrical in the way it's presented,
For sure.
So that was my, I would say, main influence.
Okay, that makes sense.
To do this, yeah.
Yeah. See, this is all like obviously I didn't know you that well before we did this, and this is all adding up a lot. I think it's really cool that you, like all these everything you're saying is like, oh yeah, I can hear that when you play guitar. It's all. I think that's great. I think that's super cool. Yeah. Okay. So what's the current plans? Like, you obviously working on this album, and do you have like release date for that yet or anything?
I'm done with my recording. It's all done, mixed, and everything. Where it's at now is we have to do some videos and provide that to the marketing people.
Right.
And so the release date I'll know pretty soon.
Okay.
But it's kind of not my decision.
Right.
I think they choose when the best time is.
Right.
as soon as I know, you'll know.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it, man. That's great. Cool. And like any other plans? Like, are you planning to stay in Toronto for a while now, or do you know where you're? Like, are you gonna keep going back and forth? Like,
Yeah, I'll definitely be here.
right,
Of course, I'll do some back and forth, but as much as I can be here and play here,
right.
I'd love that.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think it's such a. I feel like this is a very underrated guitar town, like, which is kind of what I'm trying to do with this. But like, there's so many people here who I just think, man, they're really good.
Yeah, man.
Like,
yeah, for real. I've heard some people. It's definitely. I would say it's sometimes you just need to be in that environment, because
right,
there are things that happen even from just listening to someone play.
right.
It's not the same when you're not in it, and I know because I've lived that, so I could feel the difference. It just inspires you in a different way.
Yeah, oh, I totally agree. I'm very glad we're back to having live shows again.
Yeah.
Actually go see it, and I'm trying to knock things off my list. Yeah, I don't know about you, but like for the pandemic, I felt like after that, I was like, I can't take anything for granted anymore. Like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, like anyone I haven't seen. I saw, do you know Sisters Euclid? That band Kevin Bright plays guitar.
No.
It's a phenomenal local guitarist with a very unique style, and I've been aware of him ever since I've lived here, and I finally went and saw it like last week because I was like, I need to go. Like, I can't just assume there'll be another show. I have to go to the one I can. And it was amazing. Like, it was fantastic. It lived up to the hype for sure. But I feel like that's often the case here. Like, I got a friend. I got a couple friends that came to a show recently. I was playing with Paul Ballon, like, amazing drummer.
Yeah.
And it was a Sunday night, and playing insane like fusion stuff or whatever. And my friends were like, "In what other city could you just wander into a bar and see this like just insane top level like whatever just casually in a bar on a Sunday night, right?" Right. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. Like we're lucky to have him here on a Sunday night, right?
Yeah.
But not just him; it's everybody. So yeah, I think it's great. Is there anything else you want to mention or plug your website or anything like that while you're here?
My website is under repair right
Okay,
now, so
okay.
I didn't want to plug that, but I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Jeremy Sean Hector.
Yeah, okay.
That's my handle.
I'll link to all that.
Yeah,
So hopefully people will see it and check it out. I don't know, you want to play another, like you were doing some like gospel-y kind of solo guitar stuff earlier. Do you want to play a bit of that for us maybe? And then we can...
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, go for it.